Something big's coming. 꿈꾼다.
이 양반이 롤 총괄 프로듀서입니다. 개발팀 대빵이지요. 라이엇이 인디 조소였던 시절에 인턴으로 입사를 해서 15년 동안 한우물 파서 롤 총괄까지 올라온 입지전적인 양반이요. 팀 G10백과가 또 LA 라이엇 본사까지 직접 가서 G터비를 따왔어요. 또 한번 들어보셔봐. 이 양반 아주 마인드가 야무져 보니까. 15년 전 조소 시절 라이엇은 어떤 모습이었나? 그 초심은 지금도 유지되고 있는가?
Yeah, when we were very much a startup, we were working on what would become League of Legends. And I think what was true then, which is still true today, was that we relentlessly focused on player value. Every decision we make for League and all of our games is really rooted in how do you do right by the player experience? What type of features and problems are you solving that are just an extra step in the experience to make the game awesome. Matchmaking to server availability to lobbying to the ritual around picking your character, or just the type of things that we make. It's very much like, is it going to appeal to people around the world? And the way to kind of get at that is just understanding, well, how does it feel as a player? And I think that was true back then, even though we were just kind of living it in a raw form. But nowadays, that is very much the way we make the game and continue to make and teach a new generation of people to make the game. As someone who's played games my entire life, it just felt right. It just felt like this is the way you should approach game making with that type of lens in mind. And I'm grateful that we've been able to do it for so long for League. I think part of the reason it's been around and continues to do well is because of that. But also, it's just it feels like the right way to approach game development.
라이엇은 최근 마법공학상자를 삭제했고 당신은 이를 직접 발표했다. 비판을 받아들이고 책임을 져야 하는 어려운 상황에서 당신의 마음가짐은?
And I think that was a moment that caused deep reflection to be like, hey, we were off in some of our thinking. And as someone who's been on the game for a really long time, what I've learned to be true is, well, you have to just own it and work through the solution and find the right path. And I think it gave us a moment to be like, what were we off about? And I think what those chests represented to players was a reward for time spent, the ability to be recognized for being with the game. And even though we thought we had solutions that would get at that feeling, it just wasn't good enough. And so when we can recognize that and be honest about it, it's okay for us to try something different. And so we'll find a different path. And I think that's kind of, again, going back to my earlier point of that's what it means to be player focused, is to really take that to heart and figure out the next set of paths. The players keep us honest. And that's kind of the essence of making games at Riot and making games for League. So
롤은 16년 장수 게임이다. 정체되지 않기 위해서는 창의력이 중요할 것이다. 개발자들의 창의력 증진을 위해 라이엇은 무엇을 하는가?
In order to not stagnate, you just have to continue to experiment and leave room to let the team do what they do best, which is dream. And find a way to make those dreams come true for players. Now, again, we're not always right. Sometimes we overdream and we overswing, and we have to be careful of that. But again, it goes back to what the community tells us to do. So, giving people room to dream and just create new thematics or new experiences is a dream job for many of us. And so, you give room for people to experiment, which is why you get kind of crazy April Fool's skins like we did this past year, or you get the idea to kind of create arcane and find ways to tie that to the game and beyond, which led into our Noxian season. We're always willing to experiment because we know that's what players desire. And if it goes well, we'll continue to do it. And I think that kind of desire to be will players like this? Will it be meaningful? Will it keep the game fun? Is really, really fulfilling. And so in order to not stagnate, you have to create room to let people try things and learn from it. And that's very much part of Riot culture.
롤의 미래는 어떨까?
League is very much a source of pride for many people around the world. It's a game that many people have grown up with now and continue to come back and play to time and time again. So our ambition is to have that be a game that's around for decades. and it can be played at the highest level of competitive play, which is great for our esports teams and our pro scenes and that aspirational journey to seeing the best of the best play every year, to just, I want to have fun with my friends. Some people started playing League when they're in high school or in college, and now they're an adult and they want to play with their families or their children. And I love this idea, and I've said this before, of like, one day I want to wake up and be a grandfather and be playing League of Legends with my children and their children together, because it's sport, it's community, it's family, it's social. That's really special, and I think we want to do everything we can to make that true, which means examining, how do we make this game knowable? How do we make this game, welcoming to our current generation, but new generations of player? So very much in the spirit of evolving, we want to continue to work with our player base to go, what do we need to do to meet their needs? Because going back to the principles, being the most player-focused game company in the world, making it better to be a player means deeply understanding what players need in every phase of their life and going, what do we need to do to continue to improve with that in mind? So to me, the vision is very much a game that's going to be around for generations and that adapts to the needs of players across those generations, while not losing the essence of what competitive Summoner's Rift-like gameplay, MOBA-like gameplay could be. And I think that's a wonderful challenge.
플레이어 중심주의를 강조하는데 구체적인 일화를 소개한다면?
A small example from years ago. We were having a lot of internet issue on connectivity in the United States around League because where our data centers were. And we were getting capped by just the constraints of different internet service providers locally across. And so as we tried to troubleshoot that issue, we realized there's only so much we can do as a company because we couldn't work with the ISPs directly. At least that's what we thought. And so instead, what we did was partner with some of those ISPs to create this kind of something called Riot Direct, which is the ability for players to more readily connect to servers in their local areas in a way that made getting into game a lot better. And I don't know if a lot of companies would try to do that, but for us, we're like, the competitive integrity of this multiplayer experience is so important that we're willing to go that extra mile to contact those service providers and find a way to solve with them ways to get the right amount of data flowing so that we can have these matches. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying that extra step. And then in terms of just passion of the team and Rioters, people love League, people love the different games we make here, and you'll see them we just finished it, we'll have a Riot Rumble, it's our annual tournament, and so people will practice and scout their teammates and figure out what are their rank, who are their, and they'll find ways to ban and understand their itemization pattern so that they can compete. And we had a tournament recently, and a lot of the League of Legends team made it to the different finals of the different tiers, and instead of going, everyone go back to work, we said, hey, go to the cafeteria and cheer on your fellow League of Legends developer as they compete in this tournament. We make space for that, and that's just kind of the celebrating and living the culture of being player focused by deeply understanding the game so that you can deeply serve the audience. So we have stuff like that all the time going on, and it just feels really humbling to be able to work in a place where we take that as seriously.
트롤을 만나면
When I personally experience trollers, okay. Well, first of all, I play anonymously. I don't have Riot in my title. So when I experience a troller, depending on the type of trolling, if it's being annoying, sometimes I'll make a little joke here or there. Playful. If they're absolutely trying to make the game worse for everybody, I will mute and I will report.
서포터가 롤을 가장 못하는 포지션이라는 주장에 동의하는가?
Your team in order to win. At the end of the day, what matters is that the team wins together, and a support player, especially a good support player, could absolutely turn the tide of battle, could absolutely set up the right plays. There are many pro players who are support who actually have been shot callers for teams, so I do not think that is a fully accurate statement, and I think there's a lot of honor to being a support player.
마지막으로 앞으로의 포부.
I'll give you my ambition. Our ambition is for League to be around for 100 years. That is a grand challenge, but I truly believe because again, League has so much mastery in it. The paths to get there are infinite. As long as we can create people the ability to do that well, and then provide a place where they can play this game, be match made against like skilled opponents, and just find a way to learn and enjoy it along the way, I think the game has potential for to outlive me, and that's the ambition.